All right, ready to roll here on a Saturday morning. Thanks to our friends at Insperity. Visit Insperity.com for powerful HR solution with exceptional follow through. Charlie, we're at the midway point of the 8th signature event of the season. It'll be the final one. Justin Thomas, Scotty Scheffler, Tommy Fleetwood are in a tie at the top at TPC River Highlands at 9 under. How are you this morning, Charlie?
I'm wonderful. I'm waking up. I've had my coffee. I bought John a kolache. I bought you one.
That's right. Shipley's?
Shipley's. We're getting it going. I still haven't recovered from the U.S. Open. I'm not sure if I like it anymore. Of the four, I think it's number 4.
Yeah.
Those conditions are just. A tournament is to showcase the talent of our champions, not to embarrass them. And there were so many shots hit that you had no chance. I mean, it was unbelievable, the conditions. 5-inch rough. The ball is only 1.6 inches in diameter, so you can hardly see it.
Yeah.
JJ, I love that he won. I've never heard of the guy before that Sunday afternoon. He showed some moxie. He got a great break in that they took him off the golf course for 95 minutes because of rain, and then the USGA officials made a horrible, I think, decision and not giving that relief from casual water. That's why it's in the rule book.
Yeah.
I don't know their thinking. I'd love to hear an explanation how they didn't think that wasn't.
Yeah, for Sam Burns there on 15.
Sam Burns on 15, yeah. But, it was an exciting afternoon of golf. I mean, I watched every bit of it. I mean, the guys, JJ drove the ball exquisitely on 17 and 18.
Yeah. You and 9 million, Charlie. We're tuned into that 64-foot roll there on 18 that won him the tournament by 2.
9 million?
4.3 million. To the winner.
Cash, yeah. What were the ratings for the event?
Yeah, 9 million viewers were watching JJ Spaun sink that putt on the 72nd hole.
What does that equate to?
Yeah, that's NBC's viewership. That was the peak viewership. I think it averaged around in the 3.5 range on Sunday. So they got good ratings. You had all the big names, there. I mean, Scheffler and Rahm finished in a tie for 7th. Victor Hovland was right there. Robert McIntyre, who's become a really exciting player, lefty out of Scotland, he finished 2nd. So ratings-wise, the U.S. Open did quite well, but you've been to Oakmont a number of times. Coached Angel Cabrera to a U.S. Open championship there. You've taken plenty of people out there. Is there a way they could set that course up without embarrassing the pro?
I don't think so. I mean, I think when you have, 6 greens, that the pitch of the green is going away from the fairway, going and so, I mean, you hit it in the front. I mean, you can putt the ball from 150 yards down the fairway on number 1 and hit it over the green with a putter. But the grounds crew, the golf course was impeccable.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to seen it hard and dry, and what would have happened.
Yeah, like Cabrera in 07.
Yeah.
I've watched the replay to that a number of times. It was brown there at Oakmont.
Yeah,
but
it had a lot of, and it didn't have, the trees were gone. I'm not sure,
Were you there in 94 for Ernie's win when the trees were still there?
No.
Okay. Look, I mean, it's amazing how different it looked, Charlie.
Yeah.
Place looked like a forest.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a forest. And that's the way, they congressional, they did the same thing. They took the trees away to just promote the golf course. So, but overall, it was a great weekend of golf. The USGA did an outstanding job. I think 10,000 people tried to qualify for that event.
Yeah.
And
Carlos Ortiz was the high finish qualifier. He was ranked,
is that right?
He was ranked 964 in the world going into last week. final qualified at a sectional qualifying site and was right there in the mix going into Sunday. Now, Carlos is a live golfer.
Right.
He did win the Houston Open before he made that transition. That's a big time finish for him. Finishing top four. He's going to get into the Masters next year.
Yes.
He'll be in the Open Championship, the last major of the year, and he qualifies for next year's U.S. Open at Shinnecock.
And the Open Championship is where?
Royal Port Rush.
Royal Port Rush. And who is the defending champion?
Shane Lowry from 2019.
And you would think
Xander Schauffele.
Rory would be the odds-on favorite to go over there and win. You think that's too much pressure for him to?
I would go, Scotty Scheffler, number one, and then Rory McIlroy. I know, it's a home game for Rory. The driver looks a lot better this week at the Travelers. He shot 64 in the opening round. Yeah. He's coming off a week at the U.S. Open where, he made the cut, close to the number, took out a tee marker on his way to doing so.
Yeah, what's all this bad conduct we're seeing these guys beat up tee markers and say all the F words and forum is horrible.
There was a couple embarrassing incidents last week at the U.S. Open. Rory took out a tee marker. Rule 1.2a in the USGA handbook. If you destroy a tee marker, it's up for debate to the committee if you're going to get disqualified or not.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do that to Rory, and they need to make something a little more specific there in Rule 1.2a where there's a 1 or 2 shot penalty. We also saw Wyndham Clark, a past U.S. Open champion.
He went bananas.
He missed the cut and went in the Oakmont locker room. They got all those antique lockers from 1906, and he smashed 2 of them out. And he actually gave an apologies. I don't want to skip our audio here, but Wyndham Clark gave a statement after. Actually, he gave a statement this week. After opening 64 at the Travelers, a reporter asked him about, his actions there at Oakmont, and here was his response.
I've had a lot of highs and lows in my career, especially this year, some lows. And, I made a mistake that I deeply regret, and I'm very sorry for what happened. But I'd also like to move on, not only for myself, but for Oakmont, for the USGA, and kind of focus on the rest of this year and things that come up. I still want to try to make the Ryder Cup team. I'm on the outside looking in for the FedEx Cup, and so I'm starting to move on and focus on those things.
This has been a reoccurrence for Wyndham Clark, Charlie. At the PGA Championship, he had a tantrum, and the sponsor boards behind all the tee boxes. He hit a bad drive on one hole and turned around and just threw his driver right through one of those signs, almost hit a volunteer. So, I don't mind these guys like Tyrrell Hatton, who hit a bad shot and, you can hear him kind of cuss himself out. And, he does some of the antics without destroying anything or tossing a club. I think that's entertaining. In the situation like Wyndham Clark, where you're destroying property of one of the best clubs in the United States, I think it's unacceptable, Charlie.
Well, you can rest assured that they're getting fined for their actions. Yeah. I mean, that's the PGA won't publicize how much the fine is and so on and so forth. And it's embarrassing for the player. I mean, and golf is a game of emotion, and sometimes the worst end of it comes out.
Yeah.
And he should have
Charlie, Ian Poulter and Graham McDowell came out this week and said that the public has no idea how often that happens in locker rooms. Is that true or false?
I've never seen it happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think Poulter was talking about himself there. I think he's had a couple tantrums, but he made it sound like it's a pretty common reoccurrence.
Yeah.
But you've been there plenty. I mean, you can speak on it.
I've been in the locker room many times, but I've never seen that happen.
Yeah. That's unacceptable. Let me get you a few facts as far as your U.S. Open champion. J.J. Spaun, 34 years old. He was the only player to finish under par at Oakmont. His only other win on the PGA Tour came here in Texas at the 2022 Valero Texas Open. He had played well this year, finishing runner-up to Rory McIlroy at the Players. But, Charlie, just a year ago, J.J. Spaun was struggling to keep his card and on the verge of calling it a day as far as his professional golf career is concerned. And a year later, he's a U.S. Open champion. He was the first round leader after a bogey-free 66, stayed in the mix over the second and third round. He started Sunday. This was the most impressive aspect to me, Charlie. Started Sunday 5 over through 6. Charlie, no U.S. Open champion has ever begun their final round with 3 consecutive holes over par. Pretty impressive. As aforementioned, as you said, Charlie, there was a 95-minute weather delay when he was making the turn after that disastrous front nine, once again, 5 over through 6. Here was Spawn on how pivotal that delay was.
It was huge. You know, I think if things were going the other way, where I was like really hot, starting off and kind of all of a sudden leading, that would be kind of the last thing you want. But it's almost like, being down 20 points going into the halftime, break, NBA final, to kind of regroup, get a game plan, reset. I even changed my clothes. I was like, I want to feel like a completely different person going out there, because I had 10 holes to play. I was still 4 shots back, but it's the US Open, like people aren't running away with this tournament, and the field kind of tends to come back. But my team, my caddy, we all said, hey, if you were 4 back going into the back nine at the US Open on Monday, knowing that, you would take it. So don't worry about your start. Let's just go back out there and try to execute our game plan.
A little superstition there, Charlie.
Superstition abound during that great championship. And you must admit that he's, would you qualify him as a journeyman golf pro?
Absolutely. 34 years old, had to make his way up through, played at San Diego State, was a walk-on there and won 5 times. Came out in his professional career, joined the Canadian Tour, won there a couple times, had to spend a few years on the Corn Ferry Tour. And it's taken him, 5-6 years on the PGA Tour to really establish himself. So I'd absolutely call him a journeyman.
And if you watched him during the championship, and he got plenty of airtime, and he kept his cool.
Yeah.
He kept his, bad break on number 2 where the ball hit the pin and ricocheted and came back 70 yards. He held his composure, and so to the, he's a great champion.
He
And
is.
he got a beautiful family, 2 great little daughters.
Yeah, he was
And
up at 3 a.m. on Sunday. One of the daughters was sick, and he had to go to CVS. So on dad duty there on Father's Day as well. Charlie, interesting thing here. That's 64.5-foot putt he made on the 72nd hole. That was the longest putt made at the championship. And Spawn's using one of these new lab putters. I know you talked to the rep of lab putters there at the Houston Open. Their sales are going through the roof right now. What do you think of that wand?
Well, its principle is the way it's constructed. When the putter is in motion, the face is always square to the direction you want the ball to go. So it's got a lot of merit.
You would recommend it?
I would, sure. Anything that wins the U.S. Open. Jack Nicklaus, when he won the Masters with the response putter, which it looked like a croquet mallet, and they sold 65,000 of them on Monday.
Wow! After the win,
yeah,
that's what Lab's numbers are. Maybe not as big, but they're looking similar. They're reporting big sales after JJ Spawn's win. A lot of guys switching to the Lab putter. Adam Scott has one as well. Not as bright of a finish for the Masters champion Adam Scott at the U.S. Open, but he continues, and so do we here on the other side of the Charlie Epps Golf Hour presented by Insperity. HR that makes a difference. Back after this.
Look, I'm very excited for this opportunity. I'm very honored and humbled by this opportunity. It is. I'm excited to grow the PGA Tour. I'm excited about the future of golf. I think the time we spent with the players was a productive discussion. I learned a lot. I told the players I'm going to talk with all of them, as many as I can, in a short amount of time. Over 100, that could take me some time, but I'm going to hear what they have to say. I want to understand what they think we do well. I want to understand what they think we can do better. And so it was a really productive discussion, and I feel honored to be here.
You're listening to the Charlie Epps Golf Hour on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Powered by Insperity.
From the Veritex Community Bank Studios, here's Will Doctor and the golf doctor himself, Charlie Epps.
There's the new and first ever CEO of the PGA Tour. That is Brian Roloff. He was the CEO of NFL Media and CEO of NFL Network. He was also the NFL Chief Media and Business Officer, overseeing the league's commercial business, including broadcast and digital rights. Brian Roloff was the reason that the NFL, beyond the players and the great product that the NFL is, Brian Roloff was the one who executed NFL's new deals with CBS and NBC and ABC. Very bright sports executive. Charlie, your thoughts?
Well, well, the golf is a business, and it's a big business, and they have pending quite a few things that they got to get taken care of. That the present executive director Monahan wasn't able to get done. So bring in some new blood and approach it from a different angle, and maybe Live and the PGA can blend their resources and make it make sense. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but and then there's other responsibilities that this man is going to have. So we just saw the NBA set a record for selling a franchise for 10 billion.
Yeah.
Billion, like B. That's a serious number.
Well, that's the Lake Show, Charlie.
Yeah.
LA, a little bit of a bigger entity than the PGA Tour as a whole. Hopefully Roloff can change that and elevate the PGA Tour into the popularity that the big three of sports get: MLB, NFL, NBA. Hopefully Roloff can elevate the tour in that sense. A lot of people were surprised that he left the NFL. There was a lot of publications that said Roloff was next in line for Roger Goodell's job, the commissioner, when Goodell's contract is up in 2027. Here's what drew Brian Roloff to the CEO job at the PGA Tour.
Well, a lot drew me to this job. I think I've had the privilege of working at the NFL for a long time, but I think what drew me to this job is the strength of golf is a worldwide game, but also the strength of the PGA Tour. I think watching the level of competition, watching the rise in popularity of not only golf in general, but the PGA Tour has been a motivating factor. And these jobs don't come along very often. And the idea to sort of help move the PGA Tour to its next level makes me really excited.
So Roloff was in town in Cromwell, Connecticut this week, talking to Tiger. Was there as well to kind of be there for this press conference and the announcement of Roloff. He also talked to Lucas Glover, and Lucas Glover, asked Brian Roloff, you're not just going to be here for this 72-man field this week, right? We got Detroit next week. That's where, the majority of our membership will be in a full field event. Will you be talking to them as well? And Roloff said yes, because I think, Charlie, obviously one of the main things, these signature events, 72 players, no cut, that's going to be a big thing he has to evaluate. It's important that he talks to the full membership, isn't it?
Well, sure, that he's got to get their confidence of that he is the man who's going to make the right decisions, and when he makes one, they're going to agree with it, and that's what he's got to put together. And the PGA Tour has forever changing, and it's growing in stature and popularity, and now this gentleman could be the man for the time, and I hope it is. Anything to grow the game in the PGA Tour helps them, the club pro. So here we go.
Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour. He's going to remain in that position until he steps down at the end of 2026 when his contract is up. Here was Roll-Up on how he's going to work alongside Monahan for the next 15 months or so.
Well, I'm excited about that. I think Jay has a ton of experience that I don't have. I think day one I step in and I'm running the organization. Everybody reports to me and I report to the board. But having Jay there as a resource to help me teach me things that maybe I'm not so familiar with. Golf is a complicated ecosystem, and I think he can offer a lot. I'm excited about that.
Have you spent a lot of time around Monahan?
No, I've met him, but I've never really carried a conversation or anything like that. I was, I was surprised that he hadn't done a more. He was the heir apparent, and he understood the PGA, but I guess the job was just bigger than his capabilities.
It was maybe the most tumultuous time to be the commissioner of the PGA Tour. I mean, a lot of this is out of his control when you think about the Saudis and the amount of money they have, and they forced his hand to raise the money in these signature events and shrink the field. I'm not, one of these critics who thinks that he hasn't done a good job over the last 5 years. I mean, maybe initially when the Saudis came to the table and said, let's try to work out a deal, and he kind of put his hand up and said no thanks, and then Liv starts, and then he had to take some time off. But I think Jay Monahan was a very good commissioner. I in a world where there's a lot of critics who really just can't stand him. I think it's quite interesting the rep that he gets. Maybe not. A major part of Roll-Op's job, of course, will be helping to unify the professional game and bring an end to the ongoing PGA Tour versus Live divide. His connection with Live Golf. He knows the CEO of Live, Scott O'Neill, quite well. They met at Harvard Business School and share a background in the Mormon faith. Certainly doesn't help when it comes to navigating the complex politics of professional golf. Here was Roll-Up on unifying the game.
Well, I think the fans have spoken pretty clearly that they want the best golfers playing together. And I think as a fan, I want that too. Now, how that relates to the particular situation with Liv, I don't know. I'm new to the job. But I will say I have a clean sheet of paper when it comes to everything, including that. I think it's a complex situation. I think no less than 2 sovereign nations are involved in this discussion, so it's not easy. But I will say I have experience with complex situations, and anything I've learned, I'm going to apply to that situation and see what we can figure out.
So Roll-Up says his goal as CEO is to honor golf's traditions, but not be overly bound by them. There's 2 things I would love to see from Brian Roll-Up, Charlie. Number one, he says he loves the signature events, but I think most fans would agree that 72 players is not enough. I think the signature events needs to be at least 125-man fields with a 36-hole cut. I think you need 125 to create that David versus Goliath scenario that we saw last week at the U.S. Open with J.J. Spaun. And players like, I know Carlos Ortiz is on Live, but you need the Monday qualifiers there, and you need the 36-hole cut for entertainment purposes, number one. And number two, Charlie, I don't think golf needs a shot clock, but I think pace of play needs to be public so that players can be held accountable for playing slow. What do you think about those?
We're bringing up some good points. They haven't been addressed very well yet, so maybe that might be part of it. But I think one thing that could be setting up is just like baseball, just like basketball, just like football. You have different divisions, and you have, 20 games going on at the same time on Sunday.
Yeah.
Golf can have 2 tournaments going on, the East and West, and that would grow the game. So you would have 150 players play, and then you'd have a all-star game, and then you'd have the World Series of golf, and you could play it that way. And they want to make the foundation of the tour. They want those franchises. They want franchises, and they want team championships. So we'll wait and see. But I think it's time that we can expand the game, because there's a lot of good golfers and a lot of good kids coming golf's way to expand it into a 2-league system.
Great idea there, Charlie. We've got to take a quick break. This is the Charlie Epps Golf Hour by Insperity, HR that makes a difference. Back after this.
The Charlie Epps Golf Hour, powered by Insperity, continues
on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here's Will Doctor and Charlie Epps.
Charlie, there's some business owners who are feeling the pressure. They're starting to feel boxed in. Workforces, HR compliance, keeping their top employees happy. You have a solution for them.
Sure do. And what life is all about is communities. And communities, that is what grows our country here in the United States. We have so many great communities that have their small businesses that drive their schools, their hospitals, their churches. Everything is dependent on small businesses, and small businesses can get really great advice and help from Insperity, a company that was founded on HR, founded on helping small businesses with their minutia, with their bookkeeping, with ideas on how to improve their bottom line. So if you're a small business and you want to make it a big business and more profitable, give Insperity a call. They're experts in this type of relationship. They want small business to succeed so communities can prosper. And there's no better way than picking the best. And since 1986, Xperity has grown from zero to a $7 billion company, helping everybody. So get your phone on Monday and call them and see what you can find out and see how you can grow your business.
Unbelievable what they've done. 30 plus years of experience to work helping uh, the community, which they're Insperity is domestic. They're in almost all, every state
That's right. If not, there's just a
across the country.
phone away or log on to the computer, and
From hiring and training to HR admin and compliance. You add in competitive benefit options for your employees, and all of a sudden you've expanded your HR capabilities. So give Insperity a call. Insperity.com is where you can find them. We continue as far as the world of golf with your questions. Charlie, this comes from Hayden. Did you see Colin Morikawa not using a glove this week at the Travelers? Let me know your thoughts on that.
Did he leave it at home?
No. He said that. Actually, we have the audio from it. Let's hear what Morikawa said after post round 2 on not wearing a glove this week.
It's been a few day progress. Look, I feel like I've been putting good swings on it, and they just keep missing in the same spot. So it's not like my misses are all over the place. I just keep missing 30 feet left. And look, when it comes down to it, our hands are what makes us such good athletes and such good golfers, is that we have so much feel. And for some reason, when I've taken the glove off this week, it's kind of worked. It's just, problem is it's really hot and it's sweaty. And but honestly, I started seeing shots that I was hitting, and even the bad ones were not good, but that's kind of where I expect them to be. And it was just a back and forth kind of thing.
If you really want to play golf without a glove, go to the antiperspirant, right guard. Go ahead and spray your hands with that kind of
grip,
and it'll dry up your hands and so on and so forth. So anything helps.
It's just a personal preference.
That's right.
You wouldn't tell Hayden, hey, you have to go do this.
No. The most famous non-golf grip golf glove is Freddie Couples.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Would you say second is Mo Norman?
Mo Norman?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Couples didn't wear a glove. Lucas Glover doesn't wear a glove.
Yep.
I love Lucas's swing. You know Lucas quite well, don't you?
Very well. Very well. He used to come into town when he was 12 years old and take lessons from my good friend Dick Harmon, and we would end up hitting balls together with Lucas, and he was a great kid, and I've been rooting for him since day one, when he won the U.S. Open at 2009, the same year that Anko won the Masters. And
that's what you're talking about with the kind of all-star game, or not World Series of golf, but you've shared with me that, after in 2009 and in those years, the major champions, all 4 of them, would come together for a competition in the off season.
Yep.
I don't know why they don't do that anymore. I mean, it sounds like a great idea as far as
there's so many more tournaments worldwide, and the players, once again, they get to dictate, and some of them didn't like going to a four-person tournament.
Yeah.
When they'd get $100,000, but in the realm of things, that's not very big money for the 4 majors. So,
yeah,
but they'll revisit it. Maybe the new golf will go to the way of American League football or American League baseball, 2 leagues, and change the formats of how they make their money.
We'll see what roll-up does. Here's Steve. I am struggling transitioning from the range to on-course play. What drills or mental cues do you recommend to help students bring the range to the golf course?
That's a good question. And there's many ways that you can do it. But, most golf courses are open until dark. And if you go at twilight or late, and just play 9 holes by yourself. Get a caddy, take a playing lesson from the professional that they can show you the ins and outs of how to set up properly on a dog leg left versus dog leg right and par three. So on course instruction is paramount to learn how to play golf correctly, how to avoid double bogeys, how to avoid, you know, not, you know, just really mistakes that a professional can teach you how to circumvent a bad shot, a bad lie. Um, Watch out for hazards and so on and so forth.
Should amateurs be spending more time on the range or on the course?
Well, Nicholas always had a great saying, practice more than you play, especially the short game. And so if you can have that morning golf and or afternoon golf with 9 holes, where specifically that you go there and take lessons from the people that can show you the shortcuts of how to get better, I would do it 100% on course instruction.
Well done there, Charlie. As far as the Travelers Championship, you have a three-way tie at the top. Three great names: world number one Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas, who won earlier this year at the RBC Heritage, and Tommy Fleetwood, who is really one of the best players in the world without a PGA Tour victory. Charlie, the wind was a major factor out there at TPC River Highlands the last 2 days for players like Scotty Scheffler. They're not just, there's a lot of, managing spin, trajectory, controlling ball flight in tough conditions. What kind of adjustments do you have players make when the wind kicks up?
Well, you're going to have ball position change. Hold the ball lower to the ground. There's a good saying. When it's breezy, swing easy.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to fight it so much. Use your tee the ball lower, and those are things that you can practice on the practice ground before you go out. Ball position, aiming more right and hitting the low draw. Low draw works really good in windy conditions. A low slice don't it'll flare up. So be able to hit that draw from the inside. The ball won't spin as much, and it'll be much more controllable.
I mean, you just got to control the golf ball. I mean, so that's controlling spin and trajectory. And a lot of times you're not hitting very many full shots just because, I mean, when you hit a full shot, the ball will spin more. And then you really, really have to get the wind perfect each time. And if you're hitting a little bit more chippy shots and kind of working the ball, you can kind of manage some of those gusts.
You're not hitting the low cut, Charlie?
No.
It gets a little too spinny, huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
It'll flare up. You want to bounce the ball in. Yeah.
That'll be good for the Open here in a couple weeks.
The Open Championship. Yeah. Where?
Royal Port Rush.
Port Rush up at
And you've got the Scottish the week before at the Renaissance Club, where you've been.
Yes, it's a beautiful golf course. It's and the players love it, and so they'll go from Scotland over to Ireland, and play championship golf.
Yeah, incredible. I want to get to one more thing before we break. Sam Burns, and this is from the U.S. Open last week, and Charlie mentioned the drop. Sam Burns started Sunday with the lead. He had a tough go in that final round. It was good experience for the 27-year-old. He only had one top 10 in a major going into last week, despite 5 PGA Tour wins. He is now 1 for 8 in closing 36-hole leads on the PGA Tour, but a lot of viewers felt that Burns should have received a drop in the 15th fairway due to casual water. What a class act he is. Talked to the press after a really tough final round. Spoke about that drop. Here was Burns.
Yeah, so that fairway obviously slopes left to right, and that's kind of the low part of the fairway there. When I walked into it, clearly could see water coming up, and took practice swings, and it's just, water splashing every single time. Called a rules official over. They disagreed. I looked at it again. I thought maybe I should get a second opinion. That rules official also disagreed. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's not up to me. It's up to the rules official, and that's kind of that.
He handled that amazing. I mean, Charlie, how bad of a ruling was that in a U.S. Open?
I would say he approached it wrong. He could have called for the rules official and approached it this way, sir. Where can I drop this ball away from this casual water?
Not is this casual water?
Right.
Wow.
I want to drop because this is casual water. Boom. And there's always controversy, and the rules officials are more towards calling a rule than helping the player. I mean, not that it's helping, but it's a fair rule. That's why the rule is in place.
Yeah.
Casual water.
When he dragged his club along the
Yeah.
grass,
Oh,
waiting
yeah.
for the rules official, I mean, it was a pool underneath
That's
him,
just
Charlie.
just call him over. Say, I want to take a drop from this casual water, and then he's going to have to,
Yeah. It was the way he addressed it.
I would say
Yeah.
yes.
Did these rules officials work around the calendar year?
No, they were, they're USGA members, and they rules officials at their clubs, but they don't travel. They can't, the PGA Tour wrestlers travel
Right.
with the tour, but this is
Those guys know what they're doing.
a one-time deal.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting. That was too bad there for Sam Burns.
Yeah, it
Tough
was.
call. Bad rules official. Onward we go. We got one more segment left here on the Charlie Epps Golf Hour by Insperity HR that makes a difference. Back after this.
Yeah, I mean, Justin's a guy that I looked up to from a young age. You know, he was a really talented junior player, talented amateur player, and he had a lot of early success out here on tour. And Justin is an extremely hard worker. I think Justin's more of a practicer than I am. I'm more of a I like to play a lot when I practice. When Justin, he is very, very disciplined, I think, in the way he approaches things, and that's why you've seen him have success for so many years out here. I mean, he sticks to his process. He doesn't let things kind of get to him, I think. And I think a lot of that goes back to how hard he prepares to come out here and play. He's very, I would say, professional in the way he kind of approaches things.
The Charlie Epps Golf Hour, powered by Insperity, continues
on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
From the Veritex Community Bank Studios, here's Will Doctor and Charlie Epps.
All right, Justin Thomas and Scotty Scheffler are the final pairing on moving day at the Travelers Championship. They go off at 1:25 p.m. JT opens 67-64. He is the number one player on tour in approach shots between 75 and 150 yards. Charlie, just an incredible short iron player, and shot a 64 in those wins in Cromwell yesterday. I'm always amazed by Justin Thomas's ball striking. I mean, it's just incredible.
Justin's swing, I really like. I mean, it's very, very. It's a little mechanical, but yet it's tempo, timing, and rhythm is the best as far as iron play is concerned on tour.
He will. Well, he'll have to face Scotty. For 36. He's the defending champion of the Travelers, and we've seen Scotty win a bunch here since he won his first event of the season at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. Since then, he won the PGA Championship. Was in contention at Colonial, where he finished tied for fourth. He went to Jack's Place and won the Memorial. And then Scotty finished seventh last week at the U.S. Open in what was a very solid tournament from tee to green. I expect him to get his 12th career PGA Tour win this weekend, but he's got a tough field to battle with here. I mean, Justin Thomas, Tommy Fleetwood's also in a tie for first. In solo fourth is Jason Day at 8 under par. Great to see Jason Day back.
He's been battling all year, and it'd be nice to see him end up with a victory.
Yeah. But Justin Thomas, he has not played that well here over his last two events. When you look at his last two starts, the U.S. Open, he missed the cut for the U.S. Open for the third year in a row. Something he wasn't too proud of. Didn't play that well. Memorial finished 31st there, and missed the cut at the PGA as well. So been a bit of a tough go for JT since he got that 13th career PGA Tour win at the RBC Heritage. He was asked yesterday if it's getting any easier with age to kind of dust off those performances he had last week at Oakmont, which was a miscut. Here was JT on that.
It's unfortunately hasn't become any easier. I still get pretty pissed off about it, and it weighs on me more than it should. I wish that, I think you hear a lot of guys talk about it. They're golf defining them. It doesn't change who they are as a person, but I still very clearly think of myself as my person of how I'm playing golf. I would like to change that, but it's just the reality. It means a lot to me, but you could say it's good or bad, but I think, I'm coming to a place that I like, and I feel like I kind of know it's a lot easier for me to get over last week versus, maybe if I was going to a course that I haven't had success at, or I feel like I have a hard time playing, then it could be a little like, what are we going to do kind of thing.
Charlie, $89 million estimated career earnings for Justin Thomas. You wouldn't know it by talking to him, and just the way he remains hungry, and the way that a lot of these players, like he said, that they talk about how you go to the golf course, and then when you leave the golf course, you turn it off and you don't think about the game. He's thinking about the game 24 hours a day.
I had the pleasure of working for Jack Nicklaus, the winner of 18 majors and 75 tour events. And his one piece of advice when we started his golf schools was convince people, number one, to have fun, but two, don't make it more important than it really is. Justin Thomas, sure, he wants to be number one, and he's making it more important than it is. Enjoy your newfound riches. You have a beautiful home. You have a beautiful daughter. You're enjoy your. Nicholas had 5 kids, but have a couple more kids.
Yeah.
But enjoy it, and if you just enjoy it, man, and it's easier for me to say, but I know as watching tour players play, the word grinder, they're really intense, and just relax a little, and kind of let your horse run by itself.
Yeah. Scotty gave a great quote about this last week at the US Open. He said, and it was something that John Fields told him, your good friend John Fields. And Scotty said in college, when he first met Meredith, his wife, he would go to practice and they'd still be texting, and, she'd still be calling him. And Scotty was having a tough time balancing all of it, distinguishing, blocking off his time, using time management correctly. And John Fields told him, listen, when you're at the golf course, you're focused on golf. When you're in the classroom, you're focused on school. And when you're in, your social life, you turn everything else off and you focus on your social life. Easier said than done, but Scotty has done that to a T since then. I don't think there's a better example of someone who doesn't take his work home. And I think that's a lot what Jack was saying. Don't make it more important than it really is.
Yeah, you have to have time for everything in your life.
Yeah. Not Justin.
Yes.
Now, other major headline, if for the record, I think Scotty Scheffler wins this Sunday. I know that's not a hot take, but
Really?
I don't think anyone's stopping him. Best driver of the golf ball. I know Justin Thomas is the best player in the game from that 75 to 150.
He's defending champion, right?
Scotty's the defending champion.
Yeah.
He beat Tom Kim in a playoff last year. So I don't think anyone's beating him. I think when you look at Scotty's iron game from 75 to 150 yards, he's top 10 in every one of those categories. He's just as good as Justin Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, if you take just the numbers in consideration on paper, he's an all-time favorite.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
somebody might sneak in there and shoot 60.
It's golf, Charlie.
And steal it
JJ
from.
Spawn last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. At this golf course, it can happen too, can it?
Yeah.
Denny McCarthy, the best putter in the world, is in the tie for 5th at 7 under. He'll see if he can get his first PGA Tour victory. Keegan Bradley, Mr. Ryder Cup captain, he's at 6 under in 7th place, playing very well at the moment.
Ryder Cup captain. Who's going to be in the Ryder Cup?
Yeah, we got to go over that next week. I'm going to put together a list for us.
All right.
We'll debate it a little bit.
You got it.
Put together some results. Let you make a call on which 12 you would pick, Charlie. Well, six that automatically go, and then 6 captain picks.
I like Arnold Palmer went up to Ben Hogan and said, no, when you make the team, I don't want to play with this one player. And Arnold, Mr. Hogan looked at Arnold and says, who says you're playing?
That's pretty good. That's
pretty good.
Speaking of Mr. Palmer, if Keegan Bradley can kind of finish off this year on a strong note, we could see the first playing captain since Arnold Palmer in 1963. We'll see about that. One more thing. Jordan Spieth, first withdraw ever in his career at the Travelers Championship, had a stiff back, 297 starts without a withdrawal. He's been playing a ton of golf this year and talked a lot about how much Oakmont took it out of him. Here's how Jordan Spieth recovered from the U.S. Open last week.
I had a few beers Sunday. We were waiting on the Schefflers to come over here, and he was after the delay. So I went to Buffalo Wild Wings with Michael. And so I didn't exactly eat or drink the way I normally do there. And then, so most of the time it's very, very good, but sometimes post US Open, I just kind of needed to throw a few back. And then by yesterday I was good. I'm still young enough that doesn't really bother me on the next day. So
he jinxed himself a little bit there.
Uh-huh.
I'm still young enough.
Yeah.
3 days later, gets hurt for the not first time in his career, had the wrist surgery last year, but had to withdraw for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Good stuff there from Spieth regarding how, ridiculous Oakmont was.
Yep.
Charlie, great work today. We're out of time here. John Belmer behind the 1s and 2s. He's the best. Thanks, John. We'll see you next weekend here on the Charlie Epps Golf Hour, driven by Insperity HR that makes a difference.
Bye-bye.